Hello there, everyone. This is Caden Gardner, the author of the stories in the Out of the Darkness universe, or as Scary Juju likes to call them, the Kadenverse. And today, I'm going to do something that I've been promising you guys that I was going to do for a few months now. We are going to do a timeline video and try to get a general sense of some of the lore that accompanies these stories that Scary Juju is kind enough to tell for us. So, without further ado, let's get this party started. In the beginning, there were the 6 primordial beings. You had Yahweh, the father of light and leader of the primordials. He is essentially God. You have Father Time, who controls the flow of time in the universe. He can see all possible timelines, but he cannot reverse time. That is something that isn't allowed in this universe. You have Manu, who is the master of darkness and more of a representation of the unknown. You have Gaia and Rhea, who are respectively Mother Earth and Mother Nature. They're the masters of the living and the natural order. Then you have Death, the master of all things dead, because all things must die. Yahweh and his primordials breathe the universe into existence. The primordials create life, including mankind. Yahweh gives mankind sentience and free will. But Manu disagrees with Yahweh's choice to give mankind this free will. Manu believes that free will leads to selfishness and suffering. Yahweh creates heaven and the angels. Heaven forms the first heavenly host, which consists of Michael, Lucifer, and Gabriel. Yahweh, Gaia, and Rhea place mankind, which at this point is Adam and Lilith, on a world called Eden. Manu, attempting to subvert Yahweh's plan for free will, and possibly show Yahweh's flawed logic, appears to Lilith as a serpent and convinces her to kill Adam. She's stopped in her attempt by Yahweh, who has Lucifer escort her back to another realm. The Banishment. Lucifer escorts Lilith to a realm called Gehenna, where she is to be left alone and isolated while Yahweh and Gaia replace her with Eve. Yahweh and the other primordials banish Manu from the known universe and into a place called the Outside. Lilith writes the Necronomicon whilst being possessed by Manu in the depths of Gehenna. It is through her conversing with Manu and through the Necronomicon that Lilith creates the first dark and blood magic spells. Lucifer, who has been her warden at this point, becomes infatuated with Lilith. As a member of the heavenly host, he has a difficult time satiating his curiosity for her. She begins to convince him that Yahweh banished her because he feared her potential power. Manu also starts whispering in his ear. This causes Lucifer to enter the garden and convince Eve to eat from the tree of life. The fall of man happens, a fall which Father Time had predicted to Yahweh. The primordials create Earth, where mankind is taken. Lucifer is brought to heaven to be placed on trial. Yahweh leaves heaven to decide the fate of Lucifer. As part of the heavenly host, he is very popular amongst some of the angels. The trial begins, and he is judged by Michael and Gabriel. They both want justice for the fall of man. Lucifer is to be banished, but before the banishment can happen, civil war begins in heaven. Loyalists to Lucifer and Yahweh clash in the streets. The only thing is that it isn't much of a war. Lucifer is defeated in single combat by Michael, and his followers are defeated in a single day. They are all banished to Gehenna, where they meet Lilith. Lucifer and Lilith create the flesh pits to grow bodies for the fallen one's souls that were killed. Yahweh creates the monolith network with Father Time to enable travel between planets, or as they refer to them, realms. Other humanoid species are created to occupy these realms. Those include the giants, which are also referred to as the Jotuns, reptilian humanoids known as the Edukai, and Babellions, whose DNA is infused with elemental magic. This species in particular will be important shortly. Lilith learns more magical abilities from Lucifer and the fallen angels. She appears to Cain and manipulates him into killing his brother in order to learn the secrets of immortality. Yahweh curses Cain with the immortality he so desires, but instead of making it what he wanted, Cain ends up being a slave to Lilith. Cain begins to wonder with Lilith partially possessing him. By this time, more human tribes have been created by Gaia and Rhea. Cain, who is partially possessed by Lilith, creates chaos amongst them. Abel, however, is resurrected by Yahweh, and as the first human to die, is given the title of Horseman of Death. The first horseman. And I just realized that I fat-fingered that, so, there's nothing I can do about it now. I can't. I also misspelled resurrected right there. Don't know how I did that. I write stories for God's sake. Anyways, Abel is charged with protecting Earth. Cain and Lilith create the Philosopher's Stone. The Babellions are the first species to actually discover these monoliths. They find one in particular that leads to Earth, particularly into what would one day become known as ancient Babylon. The Babellions, as a species, are humans whose DNA is embedded with pure magic, or elemental magic. This gives them godlike abilities. This enabled them to form an extremely advanced society in a short amount of time, even learning how to modify their own DNA. The Babellions who arrive on Earth are worshipped as gods by various tribes. The Babellions are warned by heaven to cease trying to play God. They refused and eventually attempt to create an artificial monolith system. This system becomes known as the Tower of Babel. War breaks out between the Babellions and heaven. This war is ended when the Tower of Babel is destroyed by the Archangel Gabriel. The Babellions, left stranded on Earth, are killed by Cain. This first war led to death en masse, meaning souls were sent to hell or Gehenna, many of them Babellions. Many of them being converted into the first demon hordes by Lilith and the Fallen Ones. The Babellions are banned from using the monoliths. Enoch. Enoch is a direct descendant of Adam and Eve. Enoch has a particular fondness for Abel, or Daith, as I spelled it earlier. Lilith and Lucifer build an altar to a Manu. On that altar, they conceive a being called Dagon. Dagon is meant to be a Manu's perfect vessel, a way for him to cheat the system, so to say, and to place himself back into the universe and escape his banishment. Lilith, during this, has a vision of a Manu's true plans and attempts to kill her child, but she cannot. The child's mere existence has torn a hole into the outside, a hole that is closed by a seal Lucifer has placed up. But the seal is made of dark magic, and it requires an energy source. It is discovered that pain and suffering can serve as an energy source for this seal. Lucifer begins to have his fallen ones torture the souls of humans who end up in Gehenna defeated. In desperation, Lilith actually asks Heaven for aid. Heaven and Gehenna agree to banish the child to an island and place a magical warding around it. But Lilith uses a blood magic spell that is tied directly to her earthly body, meaning that should she ever be killed, Dagon will be released. Lucifer bans all worship of a Manu in hell. During the temporary alliance between heaven and hell, Lucifer plants the seeds for another war, this time with a young angel known as Semyaza. Semyaza's sons were killed by Babellions, and Lucifer suggests that Yahweh, who's supposed to be omniscient, I hope I pronounced that right, could have prevented it. So, it's technically his fault that they're dead. Father Time and Yahweh gift Enoch with a sword and tell him of the coming events, for Father Time has foreseen it. Enoch is trained in the art of war by the Archangel Michael. Semyaza creates the Watchers, a group of angels who go down to earth and seduce human women. He wants to raise an army and march on Babellion. Heaven takes notice of this and orders Semyaza back to heaven, but Semyaza refuses. Enoch begins work on a massive obsidian pyramid. This will become later known as the Tomb. Semyaza meets with Cain, Lucifer, and Lilith. He opens the monolith that connects Gehenna to Earth. The war begins when a Gehennian army invades Earth. The Gehennians' initial goal is to kill as many people as possible and harvest their souls for the seal. They have a string of early victories and small engagements, particularly because of this new creature that Lilith has crafted, the first dragon, Tiamat. They are met by a force led by Enoch and Abel on the shores of Babylon. There, Enoch separates Lilith's soul from her body whilst keeping it living. Enoch also manages to kill Semyaza. Gehennian forces are attacked by the arriving forces of heaven. Michael himself again defeats Lucifer and Tiamat at the same time. Lilith's earthly body is placed in the tomb. Gehennian forces are forced back to hell. Lucifer is forced to sign the First Treaty, which forces Gehennians to check in anytime they want to send anyone to Earth, be it for a diplomatic mission or anything else. Enoch is taken to heaven by Yahweh. There he is transformed into an angel and given the title Metatron, not Megatron the Transformer, Metatron. He gives his sword to an angel called Uriel to bestow on someone she deems worthy. Cain, who is still possessed, messes up a teleportation spell. He finds himself on Earth 0028, in which the Gehennian War never occurred, but the Babellion one did. Cain opens this Earth's monolith to Gehenna, and this Earth is conquered. Father Time becomes aware of alternate timelines after having visions of them. Father Time dubs the first Earth, Earth Prime, 0001. He discovers that when the Tower of Babel was destroyed, it caused a copy-paste effect with the universe, essentially creating several duplicate timelines, only with there being one heaven and one hell as they exist on alternate planes. It made it to where these Earths were devoid of any heavenly or demonic beings. Cain returns to Earth Prime. He abducts several people, one of which is called Janus. He begins running experiments on them. Father Time creates the Keepers after finding Earth 0028. The Keepers discover that some Earth's timelines run way faster than others. Lucifer and Lilith conceive a second son, Abaddon. Abaddon very quickly becomes a beloved prince of Gehenna as he grows older. By age 17, he has already conquered 22 Earths. He's an ambitious boy, starved for attention from his father and beloved by his mother. The Keepers log Abaddon as he conquers all these alternate Earths, bringing their humans into Gehenna to be tortured until they die. Only issue is that these people on these alternate Earths only have partial souls, as when they die, that soul reforms with a soul on whichever version of them is on the closest Earth. The torturing of these alternate souls does prove valuable, as it keeps Gehennian forces well experienced. And I misspelled another word! Heaven decides not to intervene in the conquests of these alternate Earths. They only appear on any alternate Earth for a specific event. Abaddon and his forces arrive on Earth 1202. This is where Abaddon would suffer his first ever defeat, as on this Earth, a Manu was able to get inside, taking over the planet and adding their flesh to his collective. Abaddon barely escapes with his life. Earth 1202 is discovered by the Keepers, and Father Time decides that it is necessary to destroy it before a Manu can attack Gehenna through its monolith. Father Time creates the first demon seed, a weapon that creates a black hole that sucks everything to the outside. Yahweh and the Primordials build the monolith keys and bestow them upon certain individuals before locking all the monoliths. Janus is accidentally teleported to Earth 1317. She lives there for a few hundred years until it, too, is swallowed by Abaddon's war machine. She is found by the Keepers and recruited. Alright everyone, that is all the time we have for today, unfortunately. As I've said previously on my community page, that this timeline is a very, very long and arduous project, and you combine that with, having to write these stories and, doing all this other stuff and whatnot. I decided it would be best to release the timeline in parts. That being said, though, then when we pick up with this timeline, we are going to be doing the Great Flood all the way up to, I want to say, for the 9th, when that book takes place. So yeah, we'll see you guys for that video. And remember, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, whatever you want to do. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time, hopefully with less misspelled words.